Hey everyone, this is Thyworm, and today I want to break down patch 0.7.6 and give my first impressions. I've been playing for a week, streaming it, and I must say the patch is once again really good. It feels fresh, there's a lot of new stuff to do and explore, and it's impressive that 11th Hour Games is putting up these high quality patches at a steady pace. Here are the highlights. Idols. I did a separate video on this topic. Up front it was pretty clear what we would get, basically charms in Diablo 2, but what is not clear is how it impacts the gameplay. That only becomes apparent once you start playing around with the idols. I have, and they're great. Better than expected, I would say. And expectations were high. Idols become available after you've reached the council chambers and after you've done a quest. At first you have a grid available of 2x2 where you can store idols. These idols drop randomly from enemies, crates, just the regular stuff, and as you progress through the campaign, two things happen. Via more quests, you increase the idol inventory gradually to a 4x4 grid, and idols that drop become bigger and more powerful. This progression feels very natural, very well balanced. The idols itself are powerful, and you can compare the idols with basically wearing two additional items. Each idol has a suffix and a prefix, some are class specific, and they really can boost your character quite a lot. And some idols even offer unique skill interactions, possibly opening up entire new builds. Overall, an excellent addition to the game. I just have one complaint really, because the idle screen has taken the place of the previously available statistics screen. I found the statistics screen quite useful actually, when crafting for example. That's really the only thing I don't like. I would like to see maybe a small pouch somewhere that expands into the idle inventory so you can change idols. I think that would be fine because you're not using the idle inventory every 15 minutes anyway, and I was using that statistics screen quite a bit. When tweaking builds, crafting, swapping items, I found it very convenient, even though there is of course a dedicated stat panel, but that one doesn't work when crafting or checking your stash. So yeah. Okay, next, combat. Another new feature is implemented. You can now choose three options for your left mouse button. You can just move, you can move and break destructible, or move and attack. I tried the move and break destructible on a closed door and it didn't work. I reported that bug, apparently it's the doors. I tried some crates and what I noticed is that you have to click the left mouse button to destroy something. I would expect my character to target the crates automatically as they're blocking me, but that's not the case, just so you know. In other news, you can now walk through minions. The responsiveness in combat has been greatly improved. It really depends on the character and the skills you play, however. I started the new Hammerdin character and I haven't really played Hammerdin in a while, and I couldn't immediately tell that the combat was more responsive, to be honest, for any of the skills for that matter. But then I played my Spellblade build, which I played recently and I made a guide about as well. There the difference in Shatter Strike was definitely noticeable. It was like I added a bunch of attack speed to the skill. There it felt much more responsive than it used to. Good stuff. We end the combat section with two quality of life fixes. Small melee hit attacks now auto-target enemy close by, previously these attacks would miss, and pole arms now do damage at point blank range, which previously wasn't the case. Mechanics. The buyback feature arrived. You can now buy back 20 items per character, super nice. The gambler can be restocked by paying a fee, that's great. You can now gamble all your money away in one fell swoop, just like gambling is supposed to be. I love the change, and I'm starting to appreciate the gambling more and more as well. It's quite useful when leveling characters when one item slot just isn't what you want. Just gamble a bit, might get lucky. I even got a set item the other day, and a unique. Experience got nerfed. If you're 3 levels higher than the zone you are in, you get less experience. This only impacts the campaign because all endgame content is scaled to your level. This change makes sense to me. It doesn't really affect me either because I'm normally underleveled during the campaign. Poison got nerfed. Ticks now only apply 8% poison per stack instead of 10%. I guess poison was indeed pretty powerful. Up next, the campaign. The campaign time travel experience in the first 2 acts got streamlined, so it's less confusing for new players. I noticed a few other changes during those acts as well. I saw a few new enemies, for example, some new locations, and an awesome view from the council chambers. Next to these improvements, there's the addition of stashes. Previously, you were forced back to the council chambers or the end of time because there was no other stash available. Not anymore because there are stashes added to the Outcast Camp, the Oracle's Abode, Julia's Haven, and Heoboria. Endgame. Endgame has definitely become harder. This is really a combination of all kinds of changes implemented, but in general, Endgame is a lot harder. This is an observation, not a complaint. Let's look at some changes that apply to all of the endgame. 1. You do less damage in terms of numbers because of a revamp on effective health and resistance. You should theoretically still kill the enemies as fast as before. However, 2. Enemies have 10% more effective health and damage at level 50, 20% more effective health and damage at level 75, and 30% more effective health and damage at level 100. That is significant, and it is safe to say that endgame content just got a lot harder. But there's also good news. 3. Effects like freeze and shock are more effective, especially on higher levels. And you can see that in the Spellblade Frostmage with the Shadow Strike. Damage is pretty bad, but I'm freezing a lot here. 4. Leech, and also poison by the way, are less effective. In general, leech and or poison builds are nerfed quite a bit. 5. Stun is unaffected, which is good because it recently got buffed and I feel stun locking enemies is actually a viable defense. I sort of managed to do that with my Void Knight build. These 5 changes are roughly what happened to endgame in general, but now let's have a look at the specific endgame modules. Monolith of Fate. This got much harder because you can't roll the same modifiers time and time again. There are 5 new modifiers added, but that won't help you in avoiding those nasty percentage health modifiers or crit immune modifiers or dodge modifiers. It's tough out there. I died a bunch of times, builds are in need of tweaking because you can't expect your old builds to work anymore. Once again, I'm not complaining, I'm just making observations here. Apart from the increase in difficulty, the monolith gives more XP. Loot based on the number of enemies killed, which is good change, and there are 6 new forges added for some more variety. All in all, the devs make it more attractive to clear the map instead of rushing it. You also get decent XP along the way, much more than before, and I'm happy with the changes. I think the devs are too. Then the arena. This also got tougher. Arena wave scaling is increased by 10%, which basically means the arena gets harder 10% faster than before. On high waves, XP is nerfed, and there are 3 new arena zones with some new mechanics. Skills. There's an entire new sorcerer skill, Arcane Ascendance, which provides a huge spell damage boost, but locks you in place and drains mana. It comes with the spell tree and all. Cool stuff, I will check that out someday. Passives. You may know by now that I'm not going through this entire list. I'll just give some general pointers about things that stand out to me. Beastmaster got an overhaul. Very interesting, is a boost to the synergy between you and a single companion, which was buffed this patch. They seem to want to make single companion builds more viable. And for variety there are now 4 new aspects, each providing their own flavor. It's very much a hunter-druid theme, I would say. Druid, necromancer and paladin received minor tweaks and passive skill notes, which I won't discuss here. UI. The crafting UI had a massive overhaul. It looks so much better. Suffixes and prefixes are color-coded. There are some new neat animations. The whole thing is just very pleasing to the eye. The flyout menus for glyphs and runes are also available. These flyout menus are definitely better than the previous situation, but in my opinion still worse than the original situation. Every forge I now need to fly the menu out and select the glyph. That's still a bit of a hassle if you consider I'm doing a lot of crafting. I would really like to see all 6 crafting materials in a single overview, allowing me to right-click them for easy access and the least amount of clicks possible, like in the original flyout menu, which I still think worked perfectly fine as soon as you found it. It's a minor complaint on an overall very smooth crafting experience. On to items. Both Glancing Blow affixes, the one with health and the one with armor, got removed, and they are replaced by a Glancing Blow suffix and a set Glancing Blow prefix. 4 of those set prefixes at tier 5 will cap you for Glancing Blow. Pretty decent. Goal of this change was to allow the players more variety in getting to the Glancing Blow cap, which is pretty important for endgame. It's now a lot easier to be Glancing Blow capped because the affixes are stronger than its predecessors and because you can craft them on more items. Good change, because it also opens up some precious prefixes to use for crafting other great statistics. Every new character now starts with worn boots, which give you around 4% movement speed. There's a new pair of boots in town, the Shrine boots, which have stun duration reduction. That's actually a pretty good stat, especially in endgame. The protections while channeling affixes got nerfed by 30%. The throwing attack damage affixes got nerfed by 14%. Block chance of shields got nerfed, mostly on high level shields. Finally, increased melee attack speed and increased cast speed can no longer roll on amulets. Then, some uniques. There are 3 new uniques, which I won't spoil here. Then there's a change to the Keeper's Glove with the bees. It got buffed. Bees now spawn every 8 seconds instead of 15. There was also a bug in the original patch which caused bees to not despawn. People ran around with 100 bees. Unfortunately, that bug has been fixed, but it was fun while it lasted. The Claw and the Fang now allow you to summon wolves wolves up to your companion limit rather than just one additional wolf, however they give slightly less health than before. On to skills, but really only highlighting a few things here because I don't want to waste your time. Hungering Souls got reworked. Bottom line, less souls but they do more damage. I think this has to do with performance as well because these souls were running all over the place. Wandering Spirits are no longer minions but spells. This means they're now useless for summoners but they could work well with spellcasters. Warpath got nerfed pretty heavily. It's more expensive, it is slower, it has less range and the pull mechanic is less strong. Making a Warpath build would be a real challenge right now. There are some visual and sound updates too, and indeed the game does look better and better each patch. This time ambient occlusion, new music tracks and a bunch of new sound effects. Most notably though, and this is leaving maybe the best for last, is the performance. Normally after the end of these videos I have to end on a low note because I'm having 25 frames per second in some areas. But after 0.7.5 with my Spellblade and 2 weeks later with my Druid and now in 0.7.6 with my Hammerdin, I hardly encounter any frame rate issues anymore. There's 15 hours of VODs available, usually with the FPS counter active, and performance have been rock solid. This is really a big achievement because performance was one of the biggest issues this game had. I'm not claiming it's fixed for everyone and it won't be fixed for everything either. Summoning 20 minions still isn't optimal, but with most builds under most circumstances I'm getting 60 frames per second, which I should be getting. This is very hopeful for the future, the fact that a single patch can give such a performance boost, and I'm really happy the stutters are gone as well, which I had on the Spellblade. This patch is once again excellent, the hotfix that followed just a day later also excellent, addressing all the immediate bugs like the bees. We're in for a treat and I can't wait to cover the next patch, but now back to my Hammerdin for more tweaking. Thanks for watching and making it to the end, see you soon, bye bye.